Well, welcome to this special International Man of Mystery edition of the Cataract Specialist. Today we're diving deep down under to Adelaide to catch up with internationally renowned ophthalmologist Ben LaHood. Welcome.
Thanks, Simon. Pleasure to be here.
Perhaps we could start. Could you tell us a little bit about your move from New Zealand to Australia and your consultant career to date?
Yeah, absolutely. So I trained in New Zealand, did all of my medical training, ophthalmology training. And then at the time when I wanted to be a laser surgeon, it wasn't particularly fashionable to just want to do laser. You had to pretend to be a laser and corneal surgeon. So there weren't that many places that would really just teach you to do laser. And Adelaide was one of them, Adelaide, Australia. So came across and did a fellowship. Um, Liked the place, moved back to New Zealand for a period to work in Auckland, New Zealand. And then during COVID, moved back to Adelaide and settled in here. It's a great place, nice, Adelaide's an easy place to live. It's a beautiful place to live. And so really my practice is pretty much 50-50 laser refractive surgery and cataract surgery. Did a little bit of public work when I first got here. And then like a lot of people, decided that private practice was probably more suited to what I do and enjoying it.
You're incredibly well known internationally, largely because of your social media presence, I would say. But perhaps we can come on to that later on. But what version of Ben LaHood first thought, I want to build something totally different to everybody else?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So, when I was leaving New Zealand, I was leaving a practice, sort of a little bit out of my control. It was a bit of a restructure of a company, to put it nicely, and I suppose that happened sort of overnight. So there was there was someone from industry that said to me, "Look, you should probably have some kind of online presence, or else people will just think you've died, because you've sort of left overnight." You're halfway through people's care. You've done one cataract, you haven't done the other one, and you've left the country. So something horrible probably happened. And they were really wise, and they said, get on social media, start doing those things. At the time, I hadn't had a LinkedIn profile. I thought LinkedIn was for finding a job, which I probably needed at the time. And I certainly wasn't really interested in posting on Facebook or Instagram, or, like most of us, probably just my friends would have given me a hard time for being sort of, showing off and posting pictures of myself. So at the time, I was really pretty naive with technology, with social media, but realized that if I was going to have a bit of downtime, I probably needed to get myself out there and people remember that I was still alive. And then the other side of that is I love creating things. I enjoy, at the time, this is before AI. So, many of our young listeners won't remember these dark times, but, this was in the times when you had to Photoshop pictures to fake things. So, I really enjoyed a good Photoshop. I enjoyed sort of creating images, stop motion things, videos. And I think I was lucky that in the places I worked had good video recording of procedures. I was also lucky that I made a lot of errors and had plenty of material to show people what not to do. Because, one thing I've learned, and you might feel the same, although you've probably never made a mistake in your life, but if you if you show someone a perfect operation, it's like, oh, boring. But if you show someone, hey, look, this was the moment I lasered the retina. I wasn't meaning to, but it happens. That's what gets people talking, because people come out of the woodwork and they're like, actually, I've done that too. I'm really glad that someone said about that. And I think that's just a bit of having a sort of a real persona that's done well for me, has been just being honest. I suppose that's helped with industry work where they know that they're not going to necessarily get a yes man. I will talk about the good and the bad of different products. And I think it's sort of, keeping in good stead with what I do and keeping things pretty honest and real.
Honesty is certainly something to strive for in this modern world. I totally agree with you. People will often make their own opinions of you based on your social media presence, but what's the one assumption that people make about you that's completely wrong from your social media?
I think this will be hard to imagine, but I am a real introvert. I know that I put myself out there online. I host a lot of events. I feel like I've become like the David Letterman of ophthalmology, or the Jimmy Kimmel or whatever, like a bit of a late night TV show host, because I host a lot of things. But when I go to conferences and um, a lot of people come up and say, "Can I get a photo? Can I do post something on Instagram, that sort of thing?" I'm not saying I'm a celebrity, but there's a lot of you're known to people because they've seen you online doing things. I can't wait to get back to my hotel room and just be by myself. I'm a real introvert that needs some time to myself, and I find all of those activities actually quite anxiety provoking. I'm not a natural get on stage. I'm still right before going up and to give a presentation. I'm nervous. And so I think I hide it well, I hope. But I think all surgeons, there's that feeling when things are going pear-shaped and everyone in the operating theater is like, what are you having for dinner tonight? And you're like, yeah, I don't know. But, I just got to concentrate for a minute. I'll get right back to you. I think all of us are very good at acting because you have to be the duck on the water where your feet are going a million miles an hour, but you're just floating along serenely. And I think that's something that I've learned to cope with. So that would probably be the biggest surprise for people that I'm not really the most outgoing, extroverted person.
Sounds very reassuring. Have you ever been worried about professional pushback regarding your social media? And has it ever happened?
Constantly. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, um, anywhere you work, you're going to have colleagues who think that there is a limited number of eyes, limited resources, and maybe you're getting more than your fair share because of what you put out there. I think a lot of people don't see the hard work that goes into creating the content, putting yourself out there, and sort of striving for those things. I think there's a lot of thoughts that it's easy, and just by putting yourself out there, talking, showing things off, going to events, producing research, all those things come easy, and that the fruits of that come far too easy. And so here in Australia, where it's fairly easy to make complaints about your practice, your conduct, your advertising, you do get a lot of that, and there's a lot of reviews, and there's a lot that goes on. And I have someone that helps me with my marketing, Margot, who looks over all those things and really helps me with a lot of that. All of the Instagram posts, all of that is done by me still because I think it has to have my authentic voice. But a lot of the other stuff I do get help with. And yeah, it definitely locally, I'm sure it does rub some people up the wrong way, and not because I want to. This is just what I'm doing. And I do think of my colleagues, and I think I'm very collegial. I love collaboration with my optometrist colleagues. But ultimately, as you'll know, we work in a profession where there's a lot of professional jealousy. There's a lot of fear about who someone's getting referrals, who's not. People are cagey about sharing information. So yeah, it does affect me, and it is difficult. But at the end of the day, I think you just have to run your own race.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you think social media has changed the way or the type of patients possibly that arrive at your clinic in good or challenging ways? Have they got higher expectations potentially?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you get this too because I know you've got an online presence as well, and there's definitely people that will turn up and they will have read all of the hype. I mean, all of us, I think there are some great surgeons out there. I'm not one of them. I think I'm an all right surgeon. But, with producing research, talking at things, being online, there are certain accolades that come along, like the ophthalmology power list, these sort of things. And they can sometimes, I think to a layperson, they'll be really intrigued by those sort of titles, awards, things like that. And so people will turn up and be like, yep, I did my research. I wanted the best. I came to the best, all these sort of things. And part of it is lovely because you think, wow, that's really cool. It's nice to have that sort of ego boost. But with it come high expectations. And then I think some of the other side of it that's become a little problematic for me is because I do travel a lot for work, I'll go and give talks and teaching and that sort of thing overseas. It sometimes can take a little while to get in to see me, and then there's a little bit of wait to have the surgery. And I think all of those delays build up the expectations that, wow, I've waited 6 months for this cataract surgery. This better be blooming awesome. Well, the outcome, I better see x-rays. I better see through people's clothes because, this is not just going to be ordinary surgery. This guy, he must be really good. And so that's scary as well.
Right. So, I mean, you haven't just built a surgical career, you've built a brand and a business. What's the most difficult non-clinical skill you've had to pick up?
Uh, oh, that's a tricky one. I think that I think for me, it's probably the separation of I'm not good when I was a new consultant. I always found it difficult to separate myself from being friends or good friends with registrars, trainees, and actually being able to separate myself and distance myself from them to be able to discipline them, to be able to tell them what to do. I'd tell someone off, and then I'd turn around and be like, "Hey, sorry, it's actually all right." I don't want to be the bad guy. Um, and I suppose also that can be difficult with like online interactions. So, have a lot of people that will comment on things, message, and that can be patients, that can be colleagues, and so sometimes it's difficult because you'll get good feedback, bad feedback, and it's difficult sometimes to separate yourself from that. That's been a bit tricky, and I suppose I'm a people pleaser, and so you know, I've with like you say, running a brand recently launched some cosmetics and that side of things, which I'm really enjoying. And for the first time, I had to fire someone, and I am not good at that. I am really bad. And so I think just learning business skills in general, probably like all doctors, going through the financial things is one thing, but the business side of staffing has been surprisingly difficult, I think. I'm great at hiring people, but I'm terrible at firing people.
Now, you've achieved an enormous amount, and one thing that you need to do that is time, and the other, of course, is energy. Where do you get your legendary energy from? It can't be illicit drugs, is it?
Can we stop the recording for a second? Um, no, I think to be honest, and this sounds really, really cliche and awful, but I think there's that saying of, if you want to achieve extraordinary things, it takes extraordinary sacrifices. And so I steal time. So, I'll steal time from sleep. I'll steal time from, trips away and doing things, and I'll use that time. I'm not very good at, using little snippets of time, but sometimes I'll stay up late and I don't sleep as much as I should. So I'll die early. Like the science is out there that sleep is really important. So, the amount of sleep I've lost, I'll probably be dead by the end of this podcast. But I think that's what I do. I just steal time. And, you know, recently the actor Timothy Chalamet got in trouble for saying he really wanted to be great at what he did. He really wanted to achieve something great. And it really resonates with me. I want to be really good at what I do. I want to be a really great laser surgeon. I want to be a really great cataract surgeon. And, I know that you and a lot of your trainees pour hours over watching videos of surgeries and talking about how you could have done things better and all of that sort of thing. So a lot of the social media things and the posts have come naturally from videos I'm creating anyway for teaching and for studying myself. So, there are times that's dedicated just to social media and creating things, but also some of it is sort of killing two birds with one stone as well.
Absolutely. And if you weren't an eye surgeon, what would you be doing instead, do you think?
Oh, I mean, I'm a bit torn because I love creating things, and so I would love to think that I'd be doing something artistic, but realistically, I'd probably be doing something incredibly analytic, like foreign currency trading. I'd be doing something really boring and mathematical and sitting in an office because I think as an introvert, spending a day where you're meeting like 40 new people and turning it on and being your best version of yourself every day is exhausting. I think I would love going to work in an office, looking at a computer screen, turning it off at the end of the day and going home. So I'd have to say foreign currency trader.
I had you down as a professional shoe collector on the basis of what's behind you, but obviously not.
Yeah, no, I do so much running, Simon. I mean, I just need that many shoes. No, I think that's the other funny thing about people knowing you from social media is a lot of people know my obsession with sneakers. And I've had someone offer me a couple of really collectible pairs of sneakers to do their LASIK. I'll get people that wear their fanciest sneakers to my clinic appointments because they want to talk sneakers. I love it, but it does make you realize, like, I don't post anything personal on my social media. It's very much, I guess, my shoes, my work. There's never anything personal because I think it is a little bit scary about how much people can learn about you just from your online presence. Yeah.
Let's turn to cataract now, if that's okay. So, what's a small technical detail in your surgery that you perhaps obsess over more than most?
Um, I'm big. Like I think the theater nurses that I work with will tell you. I mean, first of all, they'll tell you I talk too much. The other day, we had an operating list where I had a sore throat and couldn't talk, and we finished an hour early. But the second thing would be that I probably obsess over the rhexis. I am obsessive. I'm slow. But when you get that perfect, slightly overlapping all the way around rhexis, centered on the visual axis, exactly the right size, that does it for me. Like that's what I obsess over.
And you've been very, very early to adopt and comment on some new technology, image guidance and premium intraocular lenses and so on. How do you decide what's signal versus noise in that kind of situation? Because there are so many new products out there.
I think like anyone, Simon, it's who pays me the most. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. But like I think what I've noticed is all of the with having a bit of a voice, I guess, in the industry, you do get approached by a lot of companies. Will you try this? Because what they would love for you to do is try it, tell people how much you love it, and continue to. And that's given me opportunities to try everything. But at the end of the day, I think the real key is either having people that you actually trust who are not in the industry's pockets who will tell you the good and the bad. And I think we all have a group of people where we genuinely trust their opinion on something. But then you cannot beat using it yourself. All of the major companies produce really good lenses. If we're talking IOLs, for instance, you can't tell the difference between one or another because everyone's so individual. The eyes are different, the lenses are different. There are going to be subtle differences. For instance, I like the Hoya monofocal lens because I love the injector. Um, I like the Clarion lenses because I like how quickly they unfold. And so you're going to find different situations where you like different things, but nothing beats in your own hands. I wouldn't trust any industry hype. And that's big for me to say because I'm behind a lot of that hype. But I think that, you know, you must use it yourself. And, you've got to start with cataracts before you move on to refractive lens exchanges. You've got to do your low hanging fruit first and then get to feel for it and trust yourself if you actually do like it yourself. Don't trust anyone else.
So, in your own hands is one thing. What about in your own eye? If you had to have cataract surgery yourself tomorrow, which lens would you choose to have inserted and why?
Yeah, this is really interesting. So I get a get out of jail card because I had peripheral ulcerative keratitis. I've got quite irregular corneas. So because of that, I would have an IC8 small aperture lens to give me nice sharp vision. But if I didn't, and I had to have something, I I think at the moment I would probably have. It'll be a bit of a toss up. I think my current eyes, I would worry about trifocal side effects. So I would probably be going with an EDOF lens, and I'm a little bit used to slight monovision. So I think I would have the J&J Pure C lens, which I've been using lately as my go-to EDOF lens, and I'd have one eye a little bit more distance focused, one eye a little bit more intermediate. And that goes against pretty much everything I do every single day. But I know at the end of the day, I'm a very pedantic person, and I don't think I would cope well with the trifocal side effects. So when I think about my patients where I've had to take out trifocals, they're all glass half empty, negative people, and potentially that's me as well.
So, we know what lens you'd like put in, and you've seen a lot of people operate in Australia and New Zealand. Who would you choose to do your procedure?
Wow, that's such a big question. Uh, I think I've trained with a couple of people who I think are excellent surgeons. Like I've seen people younger than me that I think, wow, you guys are extremely good surgeons. So the two that come to mind, one LB Cavallo in New Zealand and Neil Avery in New Zealand. But I think the guy that I would choose is the person I chose to do my dad's surgery. And he's actually a VR surgeon, Keith Small in Wellington, New Zealand. I think without a doubt, the best surgeon I've ever seen. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. A lovely person, a real Renaissance man. And the reason I sent my dad to him was because I think he can handle any kind of patient and he can handle any kind of situation make safe decisions. Maybe not the fastest surgeon in the world, maybe not the most up to date with all different technologies, but could would make the right decision 100% of the time and could get himself out of trouble if there was a problem. And also, I suppose, being a VR surgeon, even if there was trouble, could handle it all in one go. So
Absolutely.
he's my pick.
You.
That's a good pointed question, Simon. Like that's tough putting on the spot to choose a colleague.
Yeah, well, I think we all have three or four in mind who we'd let loose on our own eyes, and plenty who we wouldn't. With cataract technology, is there a particular technology you were perhaps initially skeptical about that's totally won you over?
I suppose for me, I really was raised on manual marking very much. So I did my fellowship with Michael Goggin, who's an excellent surgeon as well, and he was big on needle marking at the inferior border of the limbus because it won't rub off, it won't cause trouble. We're very good at halving things as humans, so finding the midpoint is quite easy. And I transitioned very much to trusting digital alignment systems. So even if I've got someone that doesn't have an image to guide the system, I'll still put manual marks on and then use the image guidance system to line that up. I really do trust it. I know that there'll be people out there that would say it can still malfunction, and it can. But if you have, in generally in your mind, you're not completely blinded to what you're meant to be doing, excuse the pun, then you should really be able to trust it in just about all circumstances. And I think the key thing really, and I know I'm obsessed with astigmatism, but a toric lens a few degrees out is still going to be better than a non-toric lens in that eye. So, even if that guidance system is slightly out, I still trust it. And that's probably been the biggest change career-wise from fellowship to being a consultant.
And which of the guidance systems do you use, and have you used more than one?
Yeah, where I work at Adelaide Eye and Laser Centre on Parkview Day Surgery, they have access to both the Alcon and the Zeiss, so the Virion and the Callisto. In my theatre, I use the Callisto system from Zeiss because it matches up with the IOL Master and the microscope, so it's seamless through that. But I was using the Virion system in the other operating theatre quite happily. I find that what's really interesting, and neither company I'm sure would mind me saying this, I feel like the Alcon Virion system will register an eye. If the eye's on the other side of the planet, it'll be like, yep, got it, locked in, great. Whereas Callisto is a little bit more sensitive to everything being lined up perfectly. So Virion's probably a bit faster, but somehow because of that, I slightly trust Callisto a little bit more, just because it is a little bit more picky.
And from the international perspective, if you like, from Australia looking outward, what does the UK do well in cataract surgery?
Nothing. No, no, that's good. I think the UK, well, the biggest differences I see when because having worked in a couple of different countries and traveling to meetings a lot, I think the really interesting things are, well, the difference between, say, New Zealand and Australia would have to be the difference between in New Zealand you can't be sued, in Australia you can, so a little bit more medico legal. The difference between Australia and, say, the US would be how far behind the US is in a lot of technologies. You go to meetings and you're talking about things that they haven't even experienced, which is crazy. But in the UK, I'd have to say everyone is up to date. I think that the UK has embraced new technology really well. I feel like when I come over there and meet with colleagues that are doing high volume cataract surgery in the UK, they're doing it well. Everyone's up to date with the latest technologies. People are trying things. Companies are launching things in the UK. So I think from a technological point of view, the UK is absolutely on top of it. So probably world leader.
And is there something the UK system could learn from the Australian system?
Yeah, I think the time taken for training. I mean, the UK system seems ridiculously long to me. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like in Australia and New Zealand, it's long enough. We've got a 4 year plus a fellowship, and that seems adequate to become a reasonably good surgeon in whatever you're doing. Because, we've already passed a test to get into medical school. We're all fairly smart. So, 5 years to learn anything seems good enough, especially when we're doing the same operation over and over and over again. So I feel like the UK, isn't it something like 7 years?
It's a little bit shorter than that now, but yeah, it used to be.
Is
You're
it?
absolutely right.
Yeah. So I think that's probably one thing that, I mean, obviously it has been learned, but that's the one thing that strikes me is sometimes I'll meet a UK trainee and I feel like I don't know, they've been doing it for quite a long time. I mean, both systems probably have a bit of a bottleneck getting onto training, which is tough because I think in Australia, by the time you finish training, a lot of people are in their mid to late 30s. And, I mean, as a cataract or refractive surgeon, you're hoping to retire by 45. So, it's only like 5 years to work. But I think realistically, you know, that is finishing. I mean, you're an apprentice when most people have been working for 20 years. So it's a funny system to think that you're still learning and still a trainee when you're getting that old. I think it would be nice. And I know there's a whole system behind this of, we're needing more supervisors, more funding. Everything leads to more trainees. But I think finishing training that late is obstructive, and people have lives they want to get on top of. Children, travel, relationships, all kinds of different things they want to sort out. But it's hindered by being in or trying to get onto a training program for decades, and then being in a training program for many years. So I think that could be shortened.
And now you're in 100% private practice. Do you miss trainees?
I do, I really do, and I feel like I've done this twice now, where I was in New Zealand and went to working fully private and then came to Australia and missed it. So worked in public. And then really, I suppose the main reason I stopped being in public was I actually had some my own health problems where I had to take some time out. And I felt like I was mucking around the clinics by cancelling them a lot. So made the decision I'd make that change and have more time to myself. But yeah, I do. I really miss it. Like I love having trainees, especially like, really keen trainees. I really do miss it. I think having a fellow is a massive commitment, and I don't know if I have enough time in public to. Yeah, I think you have to dedicate quite a lot of time to having a true fellow. As you'd know, you've unfortunately had a few Kiwis that have come over your way. So,
None of
you
whom
know,
have disappointed, I'm pleased to say.
good. I hope not clinically either. But I think that if you have trainees, it is a big responsibility. It's not just turning up, doing your clinic, coming to theatre, being on your laptop. I do think, you do take it seriously, and if you do take it seriously, it is actually a lot of work, as you'll know. So I miss it, but I was not cut out to have a fellow. I think that having a true fellow and passing on your own wisdom in like a true mentor mentee relationship, it's very time consuming, and I don't think I ever spent enough time in public to do that.
Ben, it's probably time for you to go to bed. Thank you so much for being so candid. It's been a wonderfully entertaining experience, and I wish you well. So, big
Thanks,
thumbs up from
Simon.
England. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks very
Thanks, Ben.
much.